All right, welcome to episode. Honestly, I don't even know what episode this is of the Dynast-Eh Fantasy Football Podcast. It's the off season. There's been a lot going on, and we're excited to be back to talk some of the recent trades that have went down, do an off season power rankings, and then we do have a special segment at the end that we think all our viewers, all 10 of you, will enjoy. So I'm joined today by couple friends and league mates. I got Luke here. How's it going, Luke?
Pretty good. How are you?
We also got Brant. Look at that hair. Wow.
What's
How's
up,
it going,
everyone?
Brant?
I'm great.
Yeah, that must be get pretty heavy, but no, it's good to see. It's a really good COVID cut going. We got Dan. Dan, how's it going?
Good. I'm excited to be back chatting with you guys.
And then today, we got a special guest. He made time out of his busy schedule. He was just telling us how, all the media, wants to talk to him, and he's pretty popular these days. But we got the defending league champ, Joel Hart. How's it going, Joel?
Hey guys, I'm happy to be here. It's pretty fortunate to finally get a spot on this podcast and talk about the league. I'm excited.
Nice. And we're just alluding to it. Joel is telling us how he was shown giving a vaccine to someone. Like CBC, I guess, calls him all the time to try to get on TV. So
Yeah.
thanks for taking the
Tough
time.
life.
You're
Yeah.
All
Happy to
right.
be here.
So, I kind of alluded to it, but we're gonna start off by talking about some trades, and there's a lot to go through, so we'll try to move as quickly as we can, realizing that we sometimes get off track. But Dan made this a little easy for us, guys. Can you see the screen okay?
Yeah.
Looks good.
Wicked. So the way we're going to run through this is we got it sorted by team. So we'll run through each team that has made deals and kind of, go through what they've acquired, what they gave up, and give some takes on how we think they did. So most logical way I think to go through this. I don't think Dan had any special order here, but we'll just start at the top. We got Prestige Worldwide. It looks like Prestige has made 4 moves. Gave up a lot of picks and acquired some good players. I think the highlights are Allen Robinson, Kamara, and Marvin Jones, and Hayden Hurst, I guess. But I guess I just read off the whole list. But gave up a bunch of picks. You know what, Dan? Since you did all the work, I'm gonna pass it over to you first. What's your take on how Prestige did? And if you had to give them, say, a letter grade, what letter are you giving them?
Yeah, Prestige really started being quite active in the trade market, I think, late last season, revamping his team and pretty active now in the offseason here. So he traded away 9 picks, and 8 of them are first or second rounders. So he definitely gave up a lot of future assets to kind of get into win now mode. But if you look at what he got back, Kamara's finished, I think he finished first last year in terms of points scored. And he's had another 3rd and 4th place finish over the last, I think, 3 or 4 years. So he's definitely finished, near the top high end RB1 every year. Robinson's finished 7th now 2 years in a row at wide receiver. And Marvin Jones has quietly still been pretty productive, scoring on average over 14 points per year for the last 4 seasons. So he definitely has a lot of guys now that can contribute in the lineup. I think these deals still put his team in a tier that's still not quite in those top, 3 or 4. So he still might need to do a little something to push his team into that real contention mode. But he's definitely going to be in communication in it for a playoff spot this year. So it's fun to see. I'm excited for his team, but I think he really gave up a lot of future assets to try to get into win now mode. But we'll see if it works out.
Luke, you were saying there's some. I mean, I see the Kamara trade was with you. You were saying there might be some backstory here. Can you tell us? Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought there might be a bit of a backstory that might be interesting.
Yeah. So this was early January, and Sean just texted me and said that he had offered 3 first plus for CMC to Brant, and Brant's just like, no, I'm not trading CMC. Get lost, basically. And and he didn't say get lost, but so, and I mean, 15 minutes later we had this deal signed and sent off for approval. And he just said after, I mean, he was just chatting with me. We didn't think we were going to get a deal done, but he said that, and I said, well, I'll trade you Kamara if you want a player like that, and then we got the deal done. So yeah, it's funny how fast things can change.
Brant, why didn't you want? He was going to give you 3 firsts and Gibson for CMC. That seems like a pretty good haul.
The offer, I have it right here, the messages here. So the offer is those 3 picks and Hines for CMC. So then,
okay.
so anyways,
Oh, yeah.
I just said
Yeah.
those firsts are tempting, but I don't want to trade CMC right now, at least not yet. I mean, my theory on all this trading is it's too early. The season just ended. Let's just relax. But then literally look at my email like 20 minutes later, and then there's a trade with Luke, and it's like, Jesus Christ. Part of my
You gotta be quick, man. Like things happen fast.
That's funny. That's
Jeez.
yeah. I mean, Gibson's a lot better than Hines, so there's that's a big difference. Like, yeah, Gibson's I'd say is a pretty good piece. And Luke, we were talking about this before. Like, Luke knew Breeze was retiring because him and Breeze has been, a staple on Discount Belichick for a while. They're pretty tight. So, Luke got out from Kamara before the big Breeze news, which is good, because that's the worry with like Taysom Hill. I don't think Kamara caught like any balls, and Jameis loves to just chuck it deep. So we'll see if Kamara catches the, like 90 balls or whatever that he usually does. I'm not sure, but that's we'll see. Okay, so does anybody have any other strong takes on Prestige? Like, I think Dan kind of summed it up great, like he always does. Got some really good players, maybe still needs to get a bit deeper if he wants to make a run. But does anybody have any final parting takes they want to give on our friend Prestige? All right, I'll take your silence as no. So next, oh God, how are we going to talk about this one? So we got team 5-year plan. We got Dan here acquiring basically every pick from now until 2023 from every team. I think the only logical place to start is to go to Dan and just ask you the simple question, like, why? Because I think everybody just wants to know why.
Yeah, you know what? Joel asked me that at work earlier in the week. But honestly, mainly out of frustration for my team. It's been, I think, 3 years now. We were trying to make a good push for it, and lost to Brant in the semis, lost to Luke in the finals the year after, and then lost to Joel in the finals this year, and they're all on the podcast. So but I was just ready to switch things up a little bit. It's fun making deals, but I was just wanted some new blood on the team. And the other thing, though, aside from that, is I really saw the last couple of years, it seemed like a lot of teams were sort of in rebuild mode, and maybe the competition to win was a little bit less. And I think there's a lot of teams getting really good and sort of peaking this year or next year. And I thought maybe I can just sort of sit on the sidelines, let everyone else maybe fight it out, and come back in maybe 2023, 2024, and hopefully have a strong team to compete. So frustration, a little bit of strategy led to me acquiring 20 draft picks, 11 firsts, 7 seconds, and I'm definitely not finished yet. So I'm curious what you guys think of my deals.
Joel, maybe we'll pass it to you, since Dan's given you guys have been intimately chatting at Life about these trades. What do you think? I'm sure you're kind of happy, because like your number one competition in your division literally just cratered his
sold off. Yeah, I was surprised. And we'll probably get into this later, just talking about maybe how I kind of view playoffs and getting to fantasy football. It's like there's a lot of, I don't know, things can go right or wrong, of sometimes luck in playoffs. So like you give yourself the best chance to win. And so I was talking to Dan kind of about like his team's solid. Like it just, like I think we talked about kind of our final there, like probably 7 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, he beats me. And then, you kind of unload. However, I will say, like, if you want to get too kind of some of the, and we talked about, you know, he still has Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs and, you know, some really good solid pieces that receivers, you get a little more length out of them. I could see him using some of these picks, you know, to kind of revamp, I don't know, the running back core, make some trades. So I get it a bit. I was surprised. I thought you just keep going for it. And he's kind of win now mode, but I guess always a bridesmaid, never a bride got some of it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, Dan, like you tried to trade so many of these different pieces to me at some point or another, and you always for the moon. So like, and you got it on some of these, like, you know, you got 4 firsts for Dalvin, which, I mean, Dalvin Cook's awesome, but like, I think Joel summed it up. You traded a lot of, you know, running backs that, you know, maybe their window is only a couple more years, and you've kept so far some of your wide receivers. So definitely could see a quick rebuild if you want. But yeah, like one thing with Dan, like he's good at grinding out every pick from every trade. So you gotta give it to that. And I think a lot of these trades, like, you know, you did pretty good on. I see two of these trades are with Luke. So maybe I'll go to Luke. Talk to me about those 2 deals and how it was like dealing with Dan and how those came about.
Well, we all know how it is dealing with Dan. I keep coming back, so he keep going back. But no, I mean the Kelsey deal was sort of me flipping with taking on Kelsey, getting rid of Kittle, basically in the same trade with Riley there, and adding Tannehill and maybe Pollard for a little bit of security with Zeke. And then as deals typically go between Dan and I just semi-jokingly text him after Aaron Jones signs and says, I'll take Jones now. And then sure enough, then shortly thereafter, we're back and forth. And then we get that deal done too. So
nice. Yeah.
I totally get, like, sort of looking at what Dan has done. I mean, I can understand being frustrated. I think even with myself, like, that was I never thought I would trade Kittle. But just being frustrated with him being injured for a lot of last year, and same with Saquon, like, just frustration can lead to making deals. And like he said, it's just fun to make trades and sort of restart. So
yeah, and I see that Dan still hasn't still disrespecting your team by spelling your name wrong, but
yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it's okay. That's fine.
Oh man.
That's okay. Eventually we'll get that C in there, because I'm pretty sure there's a C there. Okay, so Brant, maybe I'll end it with you. Give Dan a letter grade on his deals, and be as brutal with the fact that he's probably had the best team before he made all these trades as you, or be generous with how many picks he got. I don't know.
To be brutally honest, his grade is incomplete. Like, he could go any which way here now. Like, and yeah, he did have the best team before. Like, and I mean, I guess with all your first round picks, you can revamp with the running back position, because I guess that's what you're missing right now. Like, you literally have Latavius Murray is your only running back in your roster. But I mean, but you know, I don't know, Dad. I would never have done what you did. But hey, you and Luke seem to be the ones that do the bold moves all the time. And hey, you guys have finished first and second a bunch. So I guess kudos to you.
It completes probably fair. Yeah, that's how many firsts do you have this year, Dan? Like,
I think I have. I wrote it down somewhere, but I think I have 3 firsts this year, 6 firsts next year, and maybe 4 or 5 in 2023, something like that.
So the draft will just basically be, okay, Dan, you're up again.
What a problem to have. You don't even know, like, the guy that's the most prepared for this podcast doesn't even know how many firsts he has.
You know what? I have it actually. I just looked. So yeah, 13 firsts, 11 seconds over the next 3 years. So enough that I could move pieces some of them maybe I'll select players, some of them I'll draft for, or I'll trade for other players. But I guess we'll see. It gives me at least somewhat of a bargaining chip, hopefully, to acquire players over the next 2-3 seasons.
That's very true. All right, so next we got Discount Belichick, kind of spelt wrong, but we all knew what the intention was here. So Luke, this year team, we'll let you kick it off. Kind of talk us through, what you did, why you did it, and let's go from there. I see we
sort of talked about the first.
Yeah,
we talked about the first deal a little bit already. The second and third deal were just, it seems like, I think in that span of 2 days, I don't know how many like massive trades happened, but there was just a lot of action going on, and I always have that fear of missing out, so I needed to get in on that action. So it was I was doing those 2 deals, the next 2 there at the exact same time, and one was obviously I needed the one to go through before I was gonna do the next one. And yeah, I don't know, I viewed that one as more of a swap, but also getting Terry instead of Lockett felt like that was a win. And the last deal with Dan I sort of alluded to already, where just how most of my trades go with Dan, they just sort of come out of nowhere, and we make something happen. So
yeah, I mean, I'll toss it to myself. I was kind of, it was weird because like I just got Kittle, and then like literally like I think the next day Luke gets Kelsey, and I'm like, oh well.
No, it was like the next hour. I think it was the span of the same.
It was like, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk to the trade that we made. Obviously, like tight end's been like the big hole, and like just seeing how dominant having one of those good tight ends like just makes such a difference. Like Dan having Kelsey last year, it's just like it's such an advantage every week, and there's just not that many that you can rely on like that. So, Dan tried to trade me Kelsey, but Dan always wanted like 3 like tons of picks, and like I don't know. I had an aversion to Kelsey because he's a little older, and then I saw a chance to get Kittle, and I'm like, oh sweet. And then I didn't realize that Kittle's actually kind of older as well, like not as old as Kelsey, and it's kind of glass. So we'll see. I might regret this trade after. There's probably a reason why Luke wanted to trade Kittle and get Kelsey back, but like in my mind, I still view his Kittle as like the number 1 dynasty tight end. So I was excited. And I'm excited now because for a while when it looked like Russ Wilson was going to get traded, I was like, oh, great. I just get Lockett, and now he's going to just be absolute dust again. But hopefully Russ sticks around, because otherwise Lockett's I don't think is going to look too hot. But I was just excited to get a chance of getting a tight end, and it was just funny. I was like, oh, Luke's trading Kittle. He must be, I think my team's going to be, competitive and probably better than his this year. And then he goes and gets Kelsey, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. But I get why you did it. Kelsey's just like such a lock every week, and having Mahomes there is having Mahomes versus whoever's going to be the Niners quarterback is probably a big advantage too. So not feeling great now about having to go up against Kelsey in my own division now, but we'll see. Dan, why don't we pass to you? 2 of these trades are with you. We've talked about them a bit already, but what are your thoughts on some of the moves that Luke's made this year?
Yeah, I'll just maybe give an overall summary, because I think we've like touched on each individual deal, but you're right. I think tight end is one of those spots where if you can have one of the top guys, a Kelsey, a Kittle, a Waller, I think it makes a big difference over the rest of the league when guys are hoping to have 7 or 8 points from their tight end. And I think Kelsey last year averaged about 20.85. So it's such a difference, right? And I also think when you look at it all from a sort of a net perspective, Luke only traded away essentially 1 first and a third when you kind of cancel out all the picks. and he was able to really upgrade his team at tight end, add a lot of running back depth. And I think the Lockett for McLaurin swap's pretty good for Luke. Lockett had 7 of 15 games less than 10 points last year and only 3 above 20. So he had a couple big weeks, but a lot of misses. And I think McLaurin's going to be, especially in that offense this year, I could see him having a pretty good season. So yeah, I think Luke, as always, really, he's very active trading. He has a lot of fun doing it. And I think he did really well, again, building up his team for this next season.
Yeah, totally. All right, so Luke did good again. Everyone's praising Luke. Yeah, but when I look at the trade though, like you're saying, I traded McLaurin for Lockett. I don't think that's what it was, right?
Oh no, sorry. I'm just saying where he upgraded his team.
Oh, okay. You're looking at because like McLaurin's way better than Lockett. I don't 100%. But
that's fair. I do like that trade for Riley Moore. Honestly, I thought when I saw that trade come up for Kittle, I was like, that's a smart move. Like I liked it. Because I do think Kittle is a top dynasty tight end too. I get Kelsey that you're gonna like the 20.8 fast, like it's just solid production, and I get the Kittle injury concerns too. I just when I saw that go through, I'm like, man, that was a good move. And then sure, Scary Terry's a solid player too, but I like that one for Riley.
Thanks, Joel. I knew there was a reason why we invited you on the podcast. These guys usually I'm usually a bit to team up on, so no, appreciate that.
Try to give some honest takes.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not making that Kittle deal without like I had the Kelsey deal in my inbox waiting to hit accept before I hit that one, and like I agree. Looking at that trade in itself, I don't like it even personally myself, but.
It's fair. Yeah.
I think a lot of it sort of like Dan had said, like with frustration, there's certain players that like with Kittle being injured last year and I'm starting whatever scraps I could find at tight end and then dealing for Hurst for whatever and him being useless. I was just fed up with the position and wanted somebody that I can hopefully just plug in and not have to worry about, but we'll see.
Brant, final say, and it's just on, I got a question specific on one trade. Is 3 firsts too much for Kelsey? No?
I think that was, well, considering he got Tannehill and Pollard as well, I think he did great. Luke did great. I gave Luke an A+ for his trades as a whole.
Oh, wow.
Wow. My. Oof. That is high praise. That is very high praise. Wow. Okay. Well, that's a great way to move on. Okay. So next, I guess, is me. Trust in the process. We just talked about the Kittle trade, so I don't think there's too much more to that. I think Cole's notes, having good tight ends makes a big difference. We'll see if Kittle stays healthy. When Kittle's healthy, like the dude's just a beast, but because he's such a beast, like he just tries to run through everybody and then he gets hurt and then he never plays. And then, so yeah, we'll see. I might be very frustrated with that, but I'm excited at least to have that decision just locked and not have to worry about starting Austin Hooper and like all that other like tight ends, like 6 to 12. Like you have no idea of what's going to happen. Like you just hope you get a touchdown. And that's like really all you're hoping for. So we'll see. And then the other trade, I mean, it was a small trade, but like I was pretty happy with it. Like honestly, like this was when I made that, it was kind of just saw that Sean had Tariq Cohen, saw that he had kind of no receivers at that time. I had Tim Patrick, who was pretty good last year, but like realistically, like next year with Cortland Sutton back is like nothing. Yeah. So I was like, Sean, you want Tim Patrick? Like he's pretty good this year and you don't really have many receivers. And I just want Tariq Cohen back. And Tariq Cohen had like an ACL and he said, sure. So sent the trade and like negotiating. And I was feeling pretty good about that one. Luke, we'll talk about the Sean trade. I know you make a living out of dealing with Sean. How do you view that trade for Sean and myself?
Well, yeah, I mean, Sean probably could have got a little bit more. I mean, Tariq, 2 firsts, Tim Patrick, like we're all in the same sort of realm here. But no, I mean, it's probably Tariq Cohen, I would think, has more upside, or with where he is at, and like with Sutton going to be coming back in Denver, and who knows I don't know who's throwing him the ball next year. Who do they have now?
Drew Lock, or are they draft
Drew Lock? I don't know.
Draft.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Sean, that 2, yeah, who was it that got 2 for, that was you, Dan, right? You got 2 first for Tariq Cohen, or what was that?
Yeah, I got 2 for him.
That's great. Okay, well, look, let's not spend too much more time on Tariq Cohen. I thought a running back, it's a guy that could finish as an RB2 or could be no good, but like, yeah, I just thought, especially on my team with all the wide receivers I had, I was really happy to do that. So, awesome. Next one, Chalupa Batman. Just one trade here, and I don't think we've really talked about this trade yet. So that'll be good. Dan, well, maybe save your take. I'm gonna go to Brant first, because I just love Brant's takes here. What did you think about this trade? We got Phil acquiring Dalvin Cook for 4 firsts and a second. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this one.
Well, I mean, hey, 4 first-round picks for anybody is a pretty big haul, and the second-round pick included in there too. So, I mean, hey, I mean, it kickstarted Dan's whole rebuild. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, you know what? I'll actually mention Phil's team just to say, like, Phil has a lot of talent on his team. He's got Cook and Taylor, like 2 potential top 5 running backs every year for a couple more years still. So he's close to being a contender, that's for sure.
Yeah, totally. And he got Madison. Like, I guess we should say, like, that's nice to have, like, the guy that's, if Cook goes down, like, Madison's the guy. So yeah, that was a surprise. Was that your first trade you make, Dan? Like, was that the one that kicked it all off? I'm not sure. I don't remember now.
Probably the first big move. I did the Hunt one with Adam, but the Cook one was sort of the first big move that really, once that trade happened, I knew I was fully committed to selling.
Yeah, so,
yeah.
Totally. Hey, Brant, quick question, just yes or no. Would you have traded CMC for all the stuff Phil gave?
Probably. I mean, I guess it's hard to say, but yeah, I guess I could have went into a rebuild. Yeah.
Okay. Like, I mean, that's probably, like, I was just curious. And you know what? So I'm gonna pass it over to Joel. I mean, what do you think about what do you think about this trade from Phil's perspective? Do you something you think is a good idea for him?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure, like, what's his first round pick this year? What is that? Is that 1.05?
I think.
I think he's
5.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like, I mean, it's a top heavy draft. I think. I mean, I don't even have a pick in this first draft in this year, but I think it's a lot to give up, honestly. Like, I mean, 4 first rounders is quite a bit, but I'm just worried about, I don't know. I mean, Dalvin Cook's already had a few years on his legs. Like, I'm just trying to figure out what Phil's. I know he wants to be competitive to get back to, but does he put him in a, like, it, obviously the Dolphin division is getting tougher too. Does it put him top? I mean, Luke's right there. I mean, Riley's good, Brant's good. So it's tough to say. I was looking at his team right now. It's good. I just don't know if it puts them into the money round. But you never know. You make playoffs and you go from there. I'd be curious to see if Dan would have took that trade for less, but I don't know if he'd answer that. Like, say, like, 1 less first round pick, like 3.
So usually I'm always the one kind of pounding the pavement and hustling for these deals, but I usually go to bed pretty early. So Phil texted me at 9:30 and I was already sleeping, and I woke up to a deal that says, Dan, how's things? Just checking in to see if you would move Cook. So I said, named the price, and he said that's kind of what he figured he was maybe going to be.
Oh, okay.
And,
So he offered,
honestly, not a whole lot of back and forth. It was, I think that it is an expensive price to pay. But if you look at what Cook averaged, he had, I think, 24 points per game last year, 21 points per game the year before, only one game under 15 points last year total. So if you can get that consistency with, like a guy like Taylor, some pretty good receivers, your point, Joel, in terms of does it put his team in the top tier? I don't think so, but it definitely puts him in the conversation. So it was definitely an expensive price, but to get a, arguably top 3 dynasty running back, I think it's probably that's the going rate. So yeah, I was happy what I got for him, but I think it's probably hopefully a win-win for both of us.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fair enough. All right, next one. We got JP. And JP, like, I feel bad. Like, keep saying we're gonna have you on. We will have you on. It's just Joel. Joel is a bit more of an attractive guest at this point, but like we'll have you on. JP. Like, it's just we had the opportunity to bring the champ on, so I feel bad. But like JP, once I know you're gonna listen, like we'll have you on. You've earned that much. But okay, so we got a big trade here. We got Darnell Mooney for 2022 second. I don't know. Like it is like fine, I guess. I don't know. I don't know that much about Darnell Mooney. Does anybody have any like strong opinions on this trade? Like, I don't know. I was surprised. It seems like a pretty weird move to make at this point, but anyways.
Yeah.
I'm curious how that trade even really came about. Yeah.
I have no idea. I think, okay, let's do it this way then. Okay. We're going to go quick, rapid fire. You pick a side. Do you rather have Phil's 2022 second or Darnell Mooney? Kind of in a vacuum, I guess. But so Luke, you go first.
I'll take the second.
Brant?
I'll take Mooney.
Okay, Dan?
If I'm JP, I would take the second. I would keep the pick.
Joel?
Yeah, I'd keep the pick too.
Yeah, I'd probably keep the pick too.
I honestly think it was a weird trade for both sides. Like both sides should have the other guy.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. But maybe JP knows something about Mooney. I don't know.
I mean, Mooney, like I think the thought was that Robinson was maybe going to be gone too, and maybe Mooney would be stepping into a larger role. Now with Robinson looking like he's going to be there at least right now for unless they deal him after he has signed his tag. But yeah, I don't know. I think that could have changed. That could have, if that wasn't the case, that might change it for me too.
But now they got the red, isn't it? Didn't they get Dalton? What is it? The red.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty positive for Mooney too. Like, the gunslinger. So. JP, maybe JP knows what he's doing here. All right, so like, it's probably pretty fair. Everybody's kind of wondering how that went down. So maybe JP, if we have you on, you can tell us what spurred this Darnell Mooney trade. But let's go to the last one, and then we can get to the power rankings. So we got Adam's team future considerations. He got Kareem Hunt and gave up his 2022 first and 2023 second. Dan, I mean, this one's with you. Walk us through. This was I guess your first trade you made, right? That you're saying?
It was, yeah. I just wanted to get this trade. Honestly, what I wanted this trade to do was signal to the league that, okay, I'm interested in selling. And then the Cook thing came about, and then the sale started, and it was so much fun. But this trade, I think, I'm curious what the group thinks on this. I think it's probably a win-win. One thing I looked up, actually, which I think works for Adam, having Chubb on his team. So if you looked at last year, the games they played, I think they played 10 games. They were on the field together. And in those games, the two of them combined on average for 32.64 points per game. So you could start the two of them as a block and really lock in a ton of points. And that number for comparison, like Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs, if you combine those two, 30 points per game. Derrick Henry and Miles Sanders, 34 points per game. So, I mean, you start both of those guys and you're almost locking in like RB1 type numbers from both, kind of. And if one has a bad game, the other one maybe has a good game. So for Adam, I think it's a really good pick. For me, it did what I needed it to do. I got some draft capital back, and then it basically was a snowball effect. So
Yeah.
what do you guys think? You guys like the deal, or?
Joel, let's go to you. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when you say it that way, I mean, it does make it a bit better. When I first came through, I thought it was a bit of a head scratch. Like, are you going to put Hunt and Chubb together every single time? Like, I don't know. I'm looking at kind of his team. I'm looking at right now, and I get it. I think there could be some times where, yeah, for sure could put them both on there. But are you going to, I don't know, I always like worry about starting two guys because there's going to be like one guy maybe goes off, the other doesn't. I get you on the backfield. I don't know. It could be win-win though. I don't mind this, honestly. It's fair. We'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, you know what? I thought at the time I thought it was a fair deal, and I still think it's fair. I think especially knowing now like what all has transpired with Dan's team only makes future considerations first probably less valuable, right, in terms of him locking in a better position in the division. So that pick next year likely is going to be a later first. I think it's a fair price to pay, and I think it make sense for both sides.
Okay, Brant, closing out the trade, rank. Actually, no, they can't even really rank this one, but yeah, like I don't know. I agree, and honestly, Dan, like that stat thing was pretty compelling. So I wouldn't have thought that. So I mean, you swayed it there, and I think Luke makes a good point. I mean, that first is probably late, although stranger things happen, and it's you never know what can happen in the league. But yeah, if that first ends up being early, like top 6, I don't think you love it. But if it ends up being a later one, I think it's pretty fair. Awesome. So like we didn't roast anybody too hard. It seems like we had a lot of like pretty fair trades, which is good. Usually there's maybe like one or two like big head scratchers, but seemed like we had some good deals. I'm just gonna pull up the screen here to try to get us set up for our next segment here. Public service announcement. If you're doing any trades, make sure you're on the new league because we have the 2021 up now. Oh, look at this. We have some breaking news, some breaking trade. Bob McKenzie, like insider stuff, or I guess like it's football, so it's Schefter, right? It's not Bob McKenzie anymore. Okay, wow. Okay, so we got Brant. Big trade happening. We have the 101 being dealt to Louis. Okay, well, look, we haven't had a chance to prepare here, so this is like some instant analysis here. Brant, let's kick it to you. How did this come about?
Well, I mean, we all know that Louis, has had a draft pick in forever, and he's been stuck with the same guys for years, and it seems to be that time for him to rebuild. So, and we all know that my receivers are pretty weak. So we started talking, then back and forth. 2.5 months later, we finally come to an agreement of 3 first-round picks, basically, for Hopkins.
Nice. I mean, this is a bit shocking. And it's a lot to take in all at once. But maybe Luke, I'll go to you. Like just instant reaction when you see this.
Yeah. I think, like Brant just said, I mean, he's needed to shore up his wide receiving core, especially with what has happened in the Dauphin division. I think we need to, and rightfully so. I think 3, like if it was just 3 firsts for Hopkins, that's I would say that's maybe even cheap, but I think this is a fair deal because we're not just talking 3 firsts, we're talking the 101 of this year as well. So I think that's probably the right price to pay to get Nuke, who's arguably still the top wide receiver in Dynasty fantasy football. And I mean, this trade could shake out anyway, right? I love seeing deals like this, and I love that Brant's making deals like this, because I think this is the kind of deal that he needed to make in order to get to that level.
Totally. Joel, like, you work very closely with Louis. Did you have any idea this was happening? Did you have inside knowledge that this could be coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, I really didn't. He talked about getting Hopkins out the door at some point. We could probably chat about our trade rally last year with Davante Adams, because I was talking to him about DeAndre Hopkins then for like weeks prior, and then Riley just decided to text me one day out of the blue and changed my mind to switch to Davante Adams. But
you're pretty happy. Davante Adams, like,
that's probably the biggest. Yeah, exactly. It's probably definitely the one reason why. Well, yeah, for sure, a huge part of why I actually won. But I like it from Brant's position to get, a solid wide receiver one. I mean, it's like Luke said, he's either the top or right there. Like you're just kind of put him in the lineup and he's going to produce. The 101 going back to Louis makes sense. I mean, I've seen both these trades for Louis make sense because he needed to unload at some point to change. He's just kind of stuck in the awkward part where, his team's getting older and less competitive in a stronger Dolphin division, and it makes sense for him. I think it's smart. I try to think of like what our Hopkins deal included last year, and he might have a better idea, but it involved things like Hopkins and Melvin Gordon for Josh Jacobs, DJ Moore, maybe a pick was what we were looking at. And then, I mean, what he got here, I think is fair. I think it's a win-win, honestly, in my books. But yeah.
Yeah, you know what, Dan, I'll go to you, and maybe just global, because we see both of these deals on the screen. It looks like Louis was busy, and actually he did just text me of, like, why haven't you approved my trades yet? And Louis, don't worry, I know that you're always afraid of the veto, and Brant will understand this more, because in our old ESPN fantasy football like standard leagues, Louis would like always like make these just egregious trades, but this was back in the day when like vetoes were allowed, and like we would just veto his trades like as a league, and then he'd get so mad and like he would just be fuming. But Louis, no, like, we're not going to veto these trades. I'll approve them on screen. It does look like Adam has to drop a player, but we can deal with that later. But Dan, maybe I'll get you to just close it off on both Brant's trade, and then as a secondary, maybe go over the Darren Waller trade, as tight end value very well, having dealt Kelsey. So
yeah, to close out Brantford, I think in a vacuum, Brant acquired Hopkins at, a very fair price. I think if I'm Brant, I'm probably maybe not done yet. I might actually be going right back to Louis and saying like, hey, can I get Tyler Boyd or Landry or something just to add a little bit more to his wide receiving core? I think Hopkins is going to be a great receiver for him, but I still think he might need a little bit more there in terms of wide receiver depth to pair with his awesome running back. So I think, one wide receiver is going to help him, but I think he needs a little bit more. So I'd be going right back to Louis and pulling the trigger on something else, because I think he probably can move some other guys. I'm happy to see what Louis doing. He needed to. I thought he was going to try to hang on for one more year or something. And I mean, the value of his players are just slowly going down. So he needed to do something. And this is really good to see. He got a really good haul for Waller. I really think that's an overpay for Adam. But at the same time, Adam now locks in a top 3 tight end. And I think that puts him, in a really solid place moving into this year. So when you look at that trade in a vacuum, I think Louis wins that one every time. But I totally see where Adam's coming from. So maybe it works out to a win-win for both those guys.
Okay, I want to close this off by one, because you opened up a can of worms, I guess. Louis still has Julio. What's Julio worth? Does anybody what would Julio cost to acquire? Because I feel like that's it's hard to judge. Like, you don't know how Julio, when he plays, is still elite. It's just you don't know how many years he has. I'm curious to get if anybody.
So Riley, we discussed, like, Julio was brought up in the conversation,
Okay.
And basically to include Julio or even somebody else, like I would have to give up the 104. But and then in most, I like there's a few scenarios, but I think it was I keep the 112 and I give him the 104 instead or whatever. But I think that I don't like. I mean, like, I guess I could have done that, but to me, I feel like I could still get a star player at 104 if I want to keep that pick.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't do that.
That seems right to me, though. Like that seems about what I was gonna say. I feel like that's the kind of like that's the scenario that would have to happen. It would be like trading up, so swapping out those picks, or doing something like that. I think is the right move there. Because I was gonna say he's probably worth I don't know, late first, I guess is where I would peg him at.
Okay. How about this then? I have 107, and I don't think I want Julio Louis, so don't pepper my inbox. But if you're Louis and I you see the 107 come across your screen for Julio, do you accept? Yes or no?
Instant accept.
Yeah.
Instant?
Yeah, accept. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I would too.
Okay. Instant. Okay. Yeah, and I think he's a first. It's a first, but okay. Well, Louis, maybe not right now. So don't message me about that. I don't want to do that right now. I don't know what the 7th pick is worth, but.
And hey, Brant, text me after the pod. I got an idea. We can work out for another deal for you. And it's a good one. It'll put your team at the top. It'll be good.
Okay.
Hey, Louis, I approved your Hopkins trade. I mean, like, look, I can tell Adam to drop another guy later. Your trade's got approved, Louis. There's no vetoes going on. You don't have to worry. Good moves, I think. I think we all agree that you needed to do something, and that makes sense.
Yeah, good
Awesome.
job.
Okay, so we're gonna move to power rankings. We'll do this kind of how we always do it. We'll just do it like a draft style. So we're gonna base it on not like future draft capital that doesn't matter. Like 2022 picks like don't matter. They're not worth anything really. I think it's fair like to include 2021 picks and what they might get, because those are players that are going to help you this year. But that's kind of the framework that I think we're working with. Who should go first? You know what, Dan, let's let you go first. Now it's fair because you used to always be in the consideration for the number 1 spot, and you always would be too humble and let it go to the other person. But now you're definitely not near the top. So I think it's pretty safe to let you pick first. Who do you got at the top of the power rankings this year?
Yeah, I'm glad that you turned to someone other than Luke or Joel, because they would just be pointing fingers at the other guy. But yeah, I have Luke number 1. And it was really close, actually. I think both the top 2 teams are really solid. Some recent developments in the NFL, trades, rumors, all that kind of stuff, free agent signings have led me to really like Luke is now, I think, in my mind, a step ahead of Joel. And you got the roster up on the screen there. When he's rolling out, Russ Wilson, and he has at running back Aaron Jones, Zeke, and Gibson, and then receivers, he has, I was looking at different combinations that he can start, and he'll have a guy like, Thielen might be on the bench to start the season. It's really impressive. Last year, Luke had a bit of a tough year. He finished 6th highest season ever in league scoring, and just didn't quite put the wins together. He had some down weeks, which didn't help him. He had 4 weeks of 160 plus points. 8 teams in the league didn't have any of those. So Luke was still an absolute elite team last year, even though things didn't quite break his way. And I looked at, if you look at his team as proposed starters, that starting lineup averages about 140 points per week, which puts you, in the conversation of being the highest scoring team in any given year. So I absolutely think he's the top team. Number 2 is very close, but he could be, in line for now the 3rd title in 5 seasons here. So we'll see what happens.
So let me just be clear. So you said there's 2. So it was between Joel and Luke. Is that what the decision was?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll maybe pass it. Did anybody have anybody different at the top? And Joel, it's okay. Like, I know you haven't, this is your first time on the podcast. Like, it is okay to toot your own horn, and put yourself on top. Like, we don't look down. We'd actually appreciate that because it doesn't happen enough here. So,
yeah, no, like I have to put Luke there. I mean, I just feel like I've had some off season, just some rough luck going on, kind of whether it's the Deshaun Watson news or just some of the free agent signings. Like, just kind of has thrown things a little bit in the air for me. So, I mean, things will hopefully get worked out before start of the year to get a little more clarity on what's happening. And if, I don't know, I kind of wanted to wait for free agency to go through just before thinking about making more moves. I like what Luke's done. Luke's made his team definitely, I think, the number one team to beat again. It's pretty elite. I think I'm still there. Question marks at tight end bug me a bit. That's in my head. And wondering a bit about my running back situation, which still is fine, but might want to change things up there. And obviously the QB situation with Deshaun is a little bit unsettling, but we'll see kind of what happens. I don't know. I need to get in the mode of maybe making some moves here soon.
Yeah, the Kenyon Drake thing, that felt nice when you saw that news.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. No. Talking about starting Kareem Hunt and Chubb, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be starting Drake and Jacob. No.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I never know what the Raiders are. Do they make
it's crazy.
Like, even John Brown, like, you already got a guy like Henry Ruggs. Like, what are you, like, what's John Gruden really doing here? I have no idea. But
yeah, I'm not sure either.
So Brant or Dan, like, no one, or Brant or like Luke, I don't know. You probably didn't rank yourself number one, but
No, I had Joel number one.
Okay. Well, we'll let you go. We'll let you have pick two then, because then you can tell us why Joel is your number one, or in our draft, I guess, number two. So why don't we go there? Make it official. Who's number two?
So yeah, I'll like I said, I had Joel one, so I'll talk about him at two. I mean, he's the defending champ. His team was super consistent last year, and I mean, Mixon was irrelevant last year too, right? So I think having him back in the mix, hopefully this coming year will hopefully even further bolster that. I guess it depends. I mean, anyone can get injured, but I do think he still has the depth at running back. You might need to add a piece or two at, like, he's running with not too many receivers on his roster in general, but all of them are players that he could easily play week in, week out and roll with. The question mark, I guess, could be tight end, and we see what happens with Henry in New England. I don't know. People have differing thoughts on Newton, and I mean, he loved throwing to Olsen back in the day, so maybe he can find that kind of thing with Henry. But yeah, and the last thing I think maybe that sort of sets him apart compared to me is the World Division versus the Dauphin Division. And in terms of when I'm ranking these, I'm ranking not necessarily, like, we're looking at the team, but then also best likelihood of winning a championship. And I think his path versus my path might be a little bit easier in the World Division than my path will be in the Dauphin Division.
Fair. Did anybody have so their top two not being Luke and Joel? I did.
Are you looking for a nomination, Riley, for your team?
I did. I had myself at number two. I had Luke number one and myself number two.
It's close.
And I only did it because, like, I put up our starting lineups, and I honestly, like, I looked at my starting lineup versus Joel's, and I said, which one would I rather have? And I know that's not the only thing. And I took mine, and part of it is the tight end conversation. Mm-hmm. I have starting out Saquon and DeAndre Swift. I would take that over Henry, Josh Jacobs. Like, I'm taking Saquon, DeAndre Swift. Potential, like, Henry's been super solid. Receiver, he's got an edge on me. But, like, I think Amari with Dak coming back, I think is should be really solid. I think I have enough depth at receiver, and guys like Higgins, Ayuk, Lockett. Like, I don't think it's that crazy. And there's a lot of bias probably on me wanting to rank myself number 2, but like I think it's close enough that you could argue, and I know Adam's right there too. Like, it's at least close enough that you can make an argument,
That's fair.
especially with
That's
the
fair.
tight end advantage.
Yeah.
And I still have 107 to make him.
I think Riley, like for me, for you, and I guess you know what, why don't you pick the third? Who's picking third, and then we can start.
Well,
we
let
can
Brant go
dive
third
into this.
let's let Brant go third, because if I go third, I know it's just gonna be
Well, like, to be honest, 2, 3, and 4, like number 1, discount Belichick is number 1 in the landslide. Like, I saw it close. But then 2, 3, and 4, especially with Adam's trade, like it's like minuscule now.
yeah.
And like, man, between Riley and Adam, it's so close. Like, I think I've leaned to Riley just a minuscule amount, but just like you just have so much depth too, and it can and every one of those guys could turn out to be a stud. So you could easily be the number 1 team this year for sure. Like, your wide receiver depth is insane. Like, all those, like, if 3 of those guys, and you got like Cooper and Lockett are both really solid, and then if one of Judy, Higgins, Ayuk balls out again, then you're set. And Chase Edmonds, like, who's Arizona going to draft? Like, are they going to get anybody at running back? Like, he could be the stud running back this year too. So you're in good shape.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that.
For once.
I think with before Adam made the Waller trade, I think I think the Waller trade made it really close, and I think you could argue that Adam's team now, if I scroll down, where is Adam's team? Like, this not going to have the Waller on there, but like with Waller here, like his team is really good. I guess maybe we'll go down the line quickly then, just rapid fire. Adam's team or my team, who do you have higher? Luke first.
Adam now.
Brant, you said me. Dan?
Yeah, I had you higher going in, but I think Brant put it, like you said, minuscule, and that's probably, I think after 4, there's a pretty big tier gap. I think both you and Adam have really good teams. They're really close, and 2 different divisions. I think you guys are both in the top 2 of your divisions, and I think both of you guys are kind of at that number 2 mark right now.
Cool. Last, close it off, Joel. Adam or me?
Actually, I have your team, Riley, higher. Still even with the Waller trade. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's the value I put on Kittle a bit too, but I just really like your depth. Maybe like Cooper, Dak coming back. You kind of was in that position that I was maybe a couple years ago, where you don't have that like top to put it over the top. But I mean, that can change. I mean, with potential deals you want to make, but you have a really solid. You got a lot to work with there.
Yeah.
And play matchups too. Yeah.
This has got to be the first time that Riley's cracked the top 6 in like off-season rankings, isn't it?
He
got to be.
He traded for Gurley in the offseason one year, where his team was he had Gurley, David Johnson. His team was looking pretty good.
Yeah. When I gave up the Saquon pick and got Gurley and Aaron Rodgers and a bunch of, oh God, that was,
Okay.
The one thing, Riley, that I actually, before Brant made his move, because direction now is pretty clear what Brant was thinking of doing, I was actually thinking you should still have gone for maybe CMC. And that I think could have put your team really in contention for number 1, like Saquon, CMC, Swift. And I think you could have got him maybe for like 2 first, Judy and Higgins or something like that. Like, I don't know what Brant was looking for, but that could have helped maybe both teams. But
Brant loves CMC. Like, to try to get CMC from Brant is just cold, dead hands. Just like, it's hard, Dan. Like, it's not, even if you have a reasonable trade, Brant will say that's a fair trade, but I don't want to trade. Like, it's
I've received that text before. The one thing actually that's interesting though, looking at this, the top 4 teams, Luke has Kelsey, Riley has Kittle, Adam has Waller. And I do think that's where maybe Joel has a bit of a question mark. Like, Hunter Henry will be a really good blocker in New England. I think like Irv Smith maybe will he made it work when he needed to last year in the finals. But I still think there's enough of a question mark that Joel now kind of probably feels like he wants to do something. I just don't know where he
Who do
turns.
you get? Like Hawkinson's probably number 4, right?
And Paul doesn't trade, so I don't know
Paul
where.
doesn't.
Maybe ideal Kelsey. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Paul doesn't trade, so you won't be able to get Hawkinson, but Hawkinson's probably the.
You're the most likely to acquire Kelsey. I can probably guarantee that just based on I'm a wild card.
So
yeah, no.
I'm just thinking. So we've picked the top 4. Who hasn't? So I haven't made a pick yet, right? Or has everybody else made a pick? Is that kind of, or is that where we're at? Just trying to keep us on track here. Should I pick number 5?
Yeah, you should nominate one, Riley.
Okay, I'm gonna pick number 5. I just got to look at my list here because the top 4, I think we all agreed was pretty consensus. Okay, yeah, no, I think this is okay. At number 5, I got Phil's team, Chalupa Batman. Look, I think like Herbert, to me, he's gonna call Herbert up. Like Herbert's your starter here. I think like Jared Goff, like in Detroit, that's going to be just a train wreck. Like they have nothing there. So I think like you look, his starter isn't, when you look at the top and you see Goff or Bridgewater, you're like, oh man, that's ugly. But he's got Herbert stashed there, which is nice. You know, Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor, it's already been alluded to. That's as good as it gets, I think, in terms of like a starting running back tandem. And then you're pulling out guys like DK, Cortland Sutton. His receivers is where the question mark is. And, when you read through the receivers, you're like, oh, okay, there's maybe a bit of a hole there. But I think he's got enough with Sutton, Williams, Pittman, Metcalf that he should be okay. And who knows, Traquan Smith, maybe if Jameis is launching those deep balls, Traquan might be worth more than the old slot man, Michael Thomas. Who knows? We'll see how that all shakes out. But look, I think Phil's team, after 4, I think it's shady, and we might have some disagreement on who's 5. But to me, Phil's team is solid. Dallas Goedert with Ertz presumably, leaving. I think it's going to be up there at least in the top 5 or 6 tight ends. So look, I think Phil's team is good enough, especially with that running back depth that he has, that I'm ranking him at 5. Look, who has someone different at 5? Just hands. Dan, Luke. Okay. Dan, who do you have at 5?
So it's between 5 and 10. You could probably slot in a bunch of different teams there. The only thing I would talk about on Phil before I mentioned who I had was when I was going through, and I was thinking of putting Phil 5, but I do think there's question marks at receiver. Like if you have an injury or bye weeks, you're kind of starting to, it does look a little thin. I think he goes to Louis and looks for Landry and Boyd or something like that. Because I think you can get both those guys for maybe a reasonable haul, like in terms of, future picks and whatnot. And I think that would really solidify what he has at receiver. Running back, I think he has maybe a couple questions too in terms of, how much is Singletary going to get used? Fournette's even usage going into next year. But he's got a lot of good pieces and definitely has some good top end talent. So I could see why you put him 5. You know what? Actually, I put Sean 5. I don't know if anyone else was with me on that one, but I looked at, he's got Kamara and Dobbins starting. And it's a little bit of maybe we got to project out, but if Dobbins can maybe have a good year here, you look at, again, Jalen Hurts, we've seen what he can do maybe at the end of last year. Again, we're projecting out, but if he can continue that, and his wide receivers do look good. I mean, Allen Robinson's been a wide receiver 1 for the last 2 years. Calvin Ridley, I think, finished 5th last year. DJ Moore had a little bit of a down year, but maybe some stuff opened up there for him with Samuel leaving. So I think he can have a step forward a little bit too. And Marvin Jones has been solid. He's got a new situation, but he's been pretty good. And we're not even mentioning guys like Darius Slayton. So I think you can argue quite a few different teams at number 5, but I had Sean as the team there. What do you guys think?
Who did you have? I didn't see if you nodded your head when Dan said Sean. Did you have someone different from both those?
So I did, and I did have Sean there, but after one of the trades today, I have a different Dauphin division team at 5 now, actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
hey.
I'm moving Brant up to 5. Yeah.
All right. So then if we talk through then our 5, 6, and 7 for everybody, Brant, Sean, Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
No. Yeah, it's close. Yeah, I think too the Hopkins trade makes a big difference. Like if you go to Brant's team, and this is not going to show Hopkins, and I think this tells the point pretty like saliently. Like you look at that, and like your wide receiver 1, I guess, is Brandon Cooks, probably.
Yeah.
That's going to make it hard to rank that team pretty high, especially given still a bit of a hole at QB, still a bit of uncertainty at tight end, awesome running backs, but I think getting Hopkins for sure. I think that's a good point to bring Brant into that conversation.
Yeah, I think it's a move that he, it's a move that he needed to make, which we talked about, and he still has 104, right? Like who knows what, I mean, he could either keep it or he could use it to get another top end piece and just solidify that too. I think where I look at Brant's team and I look at Sean's team, and maybe why I'm flipping Brant above Sean right now is looking at tight end as well. I think Brant's got a few different players that he could, depending on how the season is going, he could plug in any of those. He's got probably 3 pretty decent tight ends that he could plug in and could be a top 6, 8 type of tight end that Sean might be lacking a little bit of depth there compared to Brant.
Yeah, totally. Brant's got like a bunch of guys that like you just that's when it's tough though. Like when you have like a bunch of these guys that are like, oh god, like who am I gonna play this week? It gets tough. Okay, so I like that. So then we have our top 7. And how many of those is that? 5 out of the 7 are Dauphin then, right? Is that correct? Is my math right?
Yep.
Right.
That's I think it's going to be really competitive this year. I think last year we had a pretty bad year in that division, but I think definitely the balance has shifted a bit just with what Dan has done. Like Dan basically single-handedly, I think, changed the bit of the power dynamic. For number 8, Joel, let's go to you. Who do you have then at number 8?
Yeah, so I have Paul there. I just think with what Paul did last, like he got 3rd last year. I mean, he had maybe some things go right for him at the end of the year, but it's kind of tough. Like, I mean, Montgomery turned into RB1. Like, Stagey had a really solid schedule. I mean, does that change? Like, maybe, but he's got some good pieces, I think so too. Like, even though he just basically does all through the draft and trade, I don't know. Like, he's got Hawkinson there. He's got Juju's coming back. Yeah, like there's gonna be some question marks there, but I don't mind it. Like trying to figure out, like, because honestly it's kind of between Paul and Dan, because I think Dan can still flip some stuff, especially his receiving core. Like I also just don't trust Dan. I feel like he's gonna scheme here and just like make some crazy move and put himself right back in the top tier here. But like it's tough for me there. I kind of go off of Paul, like what he did last year and still put it together. Obviously, yeah, like Dan doesn't have any running backs, but he's got tons of picks. And I mean, it's good to just use those, I don't know, really good rookies and make something happen. Valid roster.
Seems like he doesn't have a valid roster right now.
Yeah, he's unrankable. He's Brad couldn't give him a grade. He's unrankable. He doesn't even have a valid roster.
Waivers were closed.
Yeah. Okay. I like the Paul. Like I had Paul at 8. I'm curious if Brant, Joel, or sorry, Brant, Dan, Luke. Anybody have someone different at 8? Dan. Anybody else? No. Okay, Dan. Then you're going. Who's next? Or who's at 8 for you? I guess.
You know what? I got Louis actually. Even after the moves, and more so what So if you look at his roster, and if you look now and you're saying, okay, so Dak comes back healthy, he still has, I mean, we don't know, what Odell shows up any given week, but he's got Beckham, he's got Boyd, he's got Landry, even Crowder. So he's got still decent receivers after he traded away Hopkins. And he's now coming in with pick 101. I think I saw him get 103, 106, and 112. So he's got 4 first-round picks. And if he has a good running back at number 1, which he will, he still has Melvin Gordon, and he still has, not including that first overall pick, 3 more firsts. So I think his team's, he's the last place team in the division, I think. But I think he still could be quite competitive depending on what he does. I think going into this season with those picks, I'd prefer to have his roster over Paul's.
Even with the division, though, I guess Luke had brought this up too. Yeah. Like if you're looking at, and I guess it's and how you're ranking, but if you're looking at most likely to win a title, do you still think it's Louis versus Paul?
No, using Luke's methodology, and I agree with, I think Luke, that's a smart way to rank it. Just how I had it ranked was not considering that.
Yeah,
but
no, and that's fair.
If you look at it just in terms of likeliest to win a title, I think now, Paul and JP are ahead of Louis for sure.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, Brant, you're going 9 because like you can pick Louis or you cannot pick Louis, but you're getting 9.
Oh well, at this point, I don't even know. Like, I mean, JP's the last team that has a roster that's like trying to do something right, versus Dan and Louis are just rebuilding, so to speak. I mean, I guess we'll talk about JP. I mean,
and then that's pretty much it. Because then it's like, I mean, does everybody have Danny last? I feel still sorry, Danny, but I still had
I'm last. Yeah.
Okay.
He has 2 players in the top 100.
Yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's gonna take time, but.
Okay, so then I think
you'll get there.
Right? Like realistically, like JP's kind of the last team. Like Dan's team is like hard to rank. It's like, I guess you're 11. Yeah. I don't know. So like, let's just close then on the power rankings on like talking about JP's team. So Brandon, pass it to you for that.
So I mean, he has a good quarterback. He's got 2 good running backs, but then that's kind of where it ends. I mean, I guess you could say tight end's okay too, but like his receivers, like he doesn't have that one guy that's gonna like. I mean, they all could be okay, but none of them jump off the page and be like, oh yeah, that guy's a number 1, that guy's a number 1. You know what I mean? Like it's just there's too many. Like I feel like JP tried too hard to just keep competing every single year, and he had to give up a couple of years ago to get those picks, and it's so hard when you keep giving up your next year's picks, and then this team, like, that's not terrible, but it's not great either,
Yeah, like I think JP can make the playoffs. Like I don't think it's that far between him and Paul, and like those receivers, you're 100% right. It kind of looks like your receiving core before. Well, it's probably better than your receiving core before Hopkins, but it's just like you never really know who to start. Like it's hard. You don't have like a guy like Devontae Adams that's like 20 points every day. Like you have a lot of, boom or bust guys like Marquise Brown and Robbie Anderson and, but yeah, like, I mean, he's likely him and Paul for like depending on what Dan does for the 3rd spot. I don't know. Like it's, you feel for him, but he, hopefully James Robinson continues what he did, because if James Robinson kind of goes busto and they draft a running back or do something there, like it's going to hurt. It's going to be tough if that doesn't work out. But yeah. So, you got anything to add to JP? I mean, he's a competitor in your division. Are you scared of JP, or are you just like, no, like JP?
No, like JP, like Brant says best, like he just needs to stop trying to compete and just either you just gotta sell, and because he keeps giving away his next year picks and just not getting. I didn't mind the Deontay Johnson trade for Cortland. Like I thought that was smart. I mean, that's tough. We'll see what kind of happens with Cortland this year. But like for him to, I don't know, like acquire Miles Sanders and even James Robinson, like I get the running back thing, but he needs to transition to getting young wide receivers and kind of getting rid of those guys, because by the time he becomes competitive again, they're just going to be kind of used already at that point. Is kind of my thought process. But I respect that he's trying to get competitive, but he needs to kind of just stop at some point and just change his mindset, I guess, and go into rebuild mode. So we'll see if that's coming or not.
Yeah, I mean, he tries to trade me a bunch of these old dusty guys all the time, like and yeah, but
Yeah.
And I think JP was almost getting to that mindset where he was ready to, just in discussions when I was talking to him months ago about like Sanders and what that would cost, and he was looking at it. But I think when Dan pulled the trigger and blew up his roster, I think that maybe switched things for him a little bit. He said, "Well, maybe I should give it one more year, considering what's happened with Dan's roster." So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
he brought up a good point to me, and it's pretty fair actually, because he talked to me about Sanders, and I said, look, I don't want to trade for Sanders right now. Like, I just don't really have any desire to do it. Wasn't asking for like a crazy amount, but like he brought up a good point. He's like, because Dan has made all these moves, like Dan has like all the picks, like a lot of the picks that JP you would want to acquire if you're rebuilding. Like,
Yeah.
Dan has them. There's not many people to trade with that have future picks. So like he's like, look, if you don't want to trade, there's just really not that many people that have like the picks that I would want to try to acquire. And Dan's not going to want to, at least right now, doesn't want to acquire Miles Sanders. So he just doesn't have many like partners to trade, just because of just the sheer amount of picks that Dan has in the next couple of years, which, yeah, JP was mad. Dan, he was not happy. He's like, man, Dan like has all the picks. Now I can't make any trades. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's part of one of the angles I was going for, honestly, a little bit too, is once, over the next couple of years, when teams, if someone changes their mind and they want to rebuild, I think I'll probably be one of the first people they're calling, right? But the one thing with JP is, so in the next 3 years, he only has 2 total picks. So I don't think he can stay the course. I think he does have to try to do something to rebuild, because I think your team's going to just slowly age out, and you're not picking any new draft picks, and things can get really thin really quick. We honestly, JP and I, a couple weeks back, I was just kicking tires to see like, hey, what is a Robinson Sanders Gurley package worth, kind of thing. And it wasn't worth what I hoped it was worth, but and I don't think what JP was at, like, he's not asking market value for those guys either. So I don't know when he's going to be able to move them, but like he wants too much. But I think you got it. Like, Miles Sanders still could get him a decent haul. Robinson probably can too. Even Deontay Johnson, like, I would start just selling everyone if I was JP. That's my take. I just don't think it's worth holding on, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. He could make the playoffs again, right? Or he didn't last year, but he could make the playoffs this year. He'll be in the conversation for sure.
JP, I have Dan's first in 2022, which is I'm kind of keeping my cold dead hands on that first. We'll see.
Oh, don't worry. I have a pretty good feeling that first won't be worth nearly as much as we think it is right now.
Yeah, I don't think it will.
We'll see. I don't know. I'm holding out hope. But yeah, I kind of have the same feeling. But it's a good bargaining chip to have with Dan. For once, you feel like
it might be time to unload that bargaining chip and not hold on to it for too long.
I was, actually, I was kind of trying to acquire it back at one point. Yeah. And because Riley's really doesn't want to move it, is when I went to JP and I'm like, okay, guys, let's one more year. Let's get Sanders and Robinson. I'll finish 3rd in the division. I'll make the playoffs. Riley can pick 8th, and then I'll have 6 first rounders next year anyways. So
Dan's 2021st is going to be like the Sammy Watkins of Riley holding on to it for just a little too long, and then it just becoming completely worthless.
No, I traded Sammy. I did end up trading him to Adam.
Well, yeah, but
for like a second rounder, which is not bad.
No, but I know, but there was 2 years of him exploding and you thinking that he was here he is. This is him now. And
is he
actually, hey Riley, if you want to upgrade one of those receivers to like a Tyreek, let me know.
Yeah, maybe actually. Anyways, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, before you do something crazy and just screw me over on that pick. Yeah, that may make sense actually. All right, so like we kind of ranked it. It's hard to rank at a couple points because it's a bit wishy-washy, but I think the big takeaway for me is that the one division is probably a lot more competitive than the other this year, and it's a bit flipped from last year, with the Dauphin one seeming to have quite a bit of competition. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. The last segment, we've got a special guest on, and we alluded to it earlier. So the special segment is really an interview, with the defending champ. And I'm going to pass it over to Dan because I know Dan's maybe a little bitter. He did get second again. But he did have some questions that he wanted to get off his chest and, learn from the defending champ. I think we could all, try to get some of that knowledge from that brain. So I'll pass it over to Dan, and we'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, first of all, Joel, congrats on the win. I do think that if it wasn't me winning last year, that you were probably the most deserving team. Consistent all season. I think he only had 2 weeks in total under 120 points, right? And then his team was able to blow up for a big one in the finals. So congrats, man. You deserved it. When it was kind of cool when I was looking and kind of prepping for this big interview here with the media star Joel Hart. I was looking over his previous deals, previous trades, how he kind of constructed his team. And one thing that's interesting is, so in total, over the 4+ years now, Joel's traded away 10 total players, and 2 of those guys were Rivers and Keenum in back-to-back weeks just to have a quarterback to play me. And I'll read out, here's the other 8 players that Joel traded. Tom Brady, Darius Geis, Carson Wentz, Adrian Peterson, Mike Williams, DJ Moore, and what did I say? Tree Conrad, Tyler Boyd. So he's never really, I mean, some of those players, he traded them. They're still good young pieces, but you never really have had to trade, much like, say, Luke's 1-2 years and he's always active. He's trading big names left and right to try to better his team. You've sort of played the patient game and just sort of built your team through good draft picks, whether startup or rookie draft. Now moving into a year where you're going to be trying to defend your title, take home the ever-growing dynasty pot. Are you going to be now willing to maybe make some big moves, pull the trigger now that you've seen kind of the rest of the leagues really heating up in the trade market this offseason? I'm curious your thoughts and how you're planning on approaching it.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. For me, kind of going into, I wanted to see what happened with free agency, and everyone's getting hot on the trade wire, and it did make me a little bit nervous. And now seeing like a lot of these guys go, I'm like, oh, like there's a few things I wanted to shore up, but I had a lot of question marks on the team with where are people going. Like before the lawsuits with Deshaun, it was like he's holding out. Where is he going to go? Kind of thing. And then Will Fuller's in free agency, and Kenyon Drake and Hunter Henry. So I'm kind of getting worried about those things. I want to see what was going to happen first. I think there's going to be so many times that you can have a chance to go for the dynasty pot. So I'm going to go for it at some point here. I think like that's kind of in my mindset. I mean, of course you want to win it and try to go back to back. And then if not, then we'll figure out kind of the next move. But I think I'd like to be more active this year than for sure I have any other year, probably, to try and put my team, give it the best chance it can to win, I guess, would be what I'd say.
Awesome, man. On that note, kind of with the being a patient trader, which obviously it has worked for you, do you have any regrets in terms of any deals that have sort of sat in the inbox or sat in your WhatsApp that you just didn't pull the trigger on and now you're kicking yourself?
Yeah, there's definitely one. It was this year, and I'm curious to see like Luke's take on this because I need to hear this Luke Sean how this works in the background because there was like I forget what day it was, but I was looking at the trade bait from Sean or whatever, and I've dealt with Sean a few times already, and we come to some decent deals, and I saw Kenny Galladay on there, so I'm like, oh yeah, this is like I'm gonna try to get to another wide receiver I can shore up. So I want to see what he thought he's worth. So I offered him Kenyon Drake and a second rounder, and I thought that was a good starting point, maybe fair. And then I was at work and I just didn't think of it. I just sent it to him. I didn't even really message him at all. That night I came home and I looked at just like my inbox and there was like a trade he sent back to me that I totally missed was Kenny Galladay for Myles Gaskin in a second. And I would have taken that right away. Like I would have jumped on that and that was it. I did kind of need Gaskin a bit at the end of the year with some running back injuries and stuff. So I kind of had to use him. But if I would have saw that, I would have accepted it. But the next thing I think I saw in like 20 minutes, he like canceled the trade offer. And then I saw through like the how it kind of goes. And I saw like Kenny Galladay, I forget what was part of the trade, but Antonio Gibson and stuff from Luke. So I'm very curious to see if like Sean told you like what he was gonna do, and then he kind of just jumped in there and just sniped Galladay from me because that was my biggest regret. Is like I should have checked. If I would have checked at the right time, I would have had a chance to get him. So that's probably the biggest regret this year. Other things, I guess, I don't know. I always chat with Louis and every now and then, obviously, because we're always just kind of at work and just throw things out there. And this is like probably before, this is like Carson Wentz, like almost like MVP Carson Wentz. I remember we had a deal with Dak Prescott that I just didn't. And I was going to get like I was going to get Dak and picks for Carson Wentz kind of thing. And I didn't do that. I've always thrown Derrick Henry out there. Everyone always gets him like shade. Like I feel like, I guess it's not really a regret. It's just like everyone just hates Derrick Henry, I feel like. But I'm trying to think of what else I'm regretting. I think there's some stuff from JP as well. I was going back into my discussions and like, I don't know, like I remember he wanted Joe Mixon at one time for a few first round picks. I was thinking going for 3 at that time and just kind of rebuilding that way. But it's kind of stayed the course, I guess. I don't know. You're right, like I've been patient through the draft because it just kind of that's how it worked though. For me, I felt it's not like I'm really scared of deals. It's just that when I saw I could get the 101 and just kind of revamp, I don't know, like looking at my wide receivers, trying to work. Like I knew I was going to probably take a high running back. Like Josh Jacobs was there. I mean, arguably probably the worst draft there's been for talent wise, but I thought, there could be a chance they could flip it to be competitive and then make another move to at least give me a shot in playoffs to win. That's kind of always my mindset.
Yeah, that's one thing, Joel, that it's interesting when, and I think we connected on one deal for sure. But I've thrown out some other ones to you. And that's one thing I find different dealing with you than say with someone like Luke. With you kind of know, you say, hey, here's how my players are valued. Here's what I want for them. And if you're not willing to pay this, we're not making a deal. Whereas I know kind of sort of will maybe massage the deal till we can make it work just because we just want to make it work almost at all costs. Part of just a fun thing or whatnot. But I think 2 very different approaches, and it's worked really well for Luke and it's worked really well for you, right? I mean, they've both worked and each model definitely can work, but it's been interesting to see you build your team because you definitely got a juggernaut here that I'm sure is going to be pushing for another title. Do you have a favorite deal that you made? I think I could pick one, but I'm curious of what
it's for sure the Adams trade. I mean, we worked on that a while, but like even before that, like I kind of alluded to, me and Louis had a deal for DeAndre. I know he's pretty rattled by it. Like when I switched course, like he was not impressed, but because we had it where I was willing probably to do it, and then the Adams thing popped up, and I'm a Packers fan, so I have a little bit of like I don't always want to think in those terms. I'm like, man, I'd love to have Adams on my team. And I mean, at the time, they should have taken a wide receiver in the draft, and you're worried, but like I'm like, God, no, he's still going to be probably top there. The chemistry's there. That was probably it. And then I was thinking that move probably put me getting to the finals. I hope, like thinking like, without injuries or just some weird luck. So I want to kind of, I know at the time we had my 2020 first in there, but I was really set on changing it to this year just because I did like Jefferson, like, and that's not, I mean, you always be kind of lucky with his picks, but like I just liked what I saw. I was worried sure about him going to Minnesota, but like that's who I kind of looked at in the draft. So I mean, being able to kind of get rid of this first round pick, that's the 1.12. I mean, there's still some luck involved, but that's kind of what I was hoping for, 1.11, 1.12. But yeah, I knew I needed to make a deal to get a top wide receiver because Mike Evans wasn't going to do it. I was worried, obviously, with the Godwin stuff and Tom Brady even there. Cooper Kupp wasn't there, but I needed to make that move to get me that wide receiver one, and it worked out this year. So that was kind of it. That was probably my favorite one. I didn't mind that. We made that deal with Cooper Kupp, Kenyon Drake back in the day. I didn't mind that. That was kind of when I was in rebuilding and like getting Cooper Kupp towards ACL that year. Took a little bit of a risk on that, but I don't know. It seemed to work out so far anyways.
Going through your trades, Joel, like when we were interviewing Luke there, I mean, you could find some bad deals. I mean, he's traded 54 players over the years. Like you could find trades that, I mean, he's made a ton of great ones, but you can find some that I'm sure that maybe didn't go his way. With you, because you're so patient with your approach, you really haven't made a bad trade. Like nothing that really stands out as I'm sure you would take it back.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I would say that's right. And like even, I made just a few deals, but they seem to have all worked out. I do think there was deals that like I look back and I would have said like I mean Derrick Henry again. The guy I feel like I always fished out there to everyone. Like, what could you give me for Derrick Henry? It was just nothing. Like JP sent me like this duck emoji back one time. Like we're trying to deal for Chubb. But I don't know. I feel like I offered him to you, Dan, for Marquise Brown too. Like at the draft. Maybe I like forgetting. Like maybe I wasn't that. But I did want to get rid of him because I always like valued, pass catching backs. I think everyone kind of does in this league, and I'm like, Derrick Henry is not going to be who I think he is. I don't know. I've had him, I guess, since the start. I was just thinking back to like that very first draft we did, and like everything just I feel like I don't know. I went in so unprepared. Like I don't know what my first pick was. Oh, it was Mike Evans. My second was Des Bryant, and then I think I recognized right away that was a mistake, and I switched to being young. So I went for guys like Joe Mixon, and Derrick Henry was in there too, and Will Fuller. So I switched because I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be good for a few years, and I feel like our division is kind of weak. I made the playoffs once, and then next year is when I was able to get the 101 for Jacobs. But yeah, it's just funny how kind of it all works out. But I feel like I probably would have got like a D on that first draft, and then from there some things worked out luckily, and then I don't know. Yeah, so far the trades have been, and the draft, like my drafting has been luckily good too. Like I mean, you just never know with some of these guys, but everyone I drafted, I've been able to switch out DJ Moore. Justin Jefferson is so far, like I mean, if he continues on where he's at, he's going to be solid. Jacobs, I mean, now you got Drake, but yeah, things have worked out in the draft for me so far. But so a lot of good things that go right. That I mean, they could have went wrong too. Like even the Darius Geis thing. Everyone thought he was going to be. He just like that was the deal I made with Tom Brady, and then just nothing came ever from Darius Geis. But that's how it goes.
Still holding out hope that he. I don't know why, but Darius Geis feels like a guy that Dan should have on his roster. Dan, maybe you can talk after.
Well, then you would at least have an active roster.
Yeah, that's true. Then maybe we should. Yeah,
we can discuss including him in our deal after the podcast. I feel like the next 48 hours might be pretty active for my team here. So it'll either be depleting the roster even further till I only have like 5 active players, or or if you guys aren't, if you guys don't want to chat, I guess maybe I'll be going back to JP and knocking on the door and seeing if we
You
can.
got my number. You got my
Yeah.
number, Dan.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun. But the one thing I know with Joel is when he made that deal for Adams. Initially, I thought it was still a win for Joel, but I seen why Riley did it. And then after the draft, when Green Bay drafted a quarterback in the first round, I thought this is so bad for my team because Rodgers is just on a mission and he's going to lock in on Davante Adams all season.
Joel, do you regret not trading? I tried to trade you Rodgers so many times, and you're a Green Bay fan, and then Rodgers, like this was at like this before the season started.
Yeah.
I don't know. You didn't want your boy Aaron Rodgers to pair with.
Yeah, I know. It's just the age thing. Like I was worried about when's he gonna just kind of fall off. Like he didn't have a great year last year, and then I think I don't know. We probably could have dealt more on it, but you're valuing at a second round pick, and I was like, yeah, and I was like, it's fair, but I kind of had always looked at Deshaun Watson. Like I was like, I wonder if I could snag him from Sean, because again, like he had his trade bait. I'm like, I wonder if we can make something work. And I mean, I know he picks up a pick. I mean, I was happy to get Deshaun, and plus in the year, I guess, yeah, he doesn't have Nuke anymore, but he was just on somewhat of a mission too, and just tons of value. Like, I mean, yeah, he had a solid year for me there, and that helped a lot. Like, I needed to get, besides having Carson Wentz, who just had a terrible year, and Matt Ryan, who's obviously hit his, peak and coming down, that was something I was worried about. So I wanted to get kind of one of those top 5 QBs. I didn't, and also the durability too, like just over the next few years, I could, have them on my team. So that's why I was like, it's always in the back of my mind I was going to go after a Watson or someone. That's where I was kind of in my head was at. So I didn't want to just lose some draft capital for Aaron Rodgers. If I could pair that or switch into something else, that was always my mindset.
Yeah, you definitely built a good team, man. Anyone else have questions for the defending champ?
I mean, I tried to trade for Gaskin too. I remember that. Like, you didn't.
Yeah.
I think I was gonna give. That was when I was like in my big push, and Gaskin was. I forget what.
Honestly.
We were close.
I wanted to make it. Yeah, I didn't want to make your team better because for the playoffs, that was also my mind. I think it was fair when we were doing Corey Davis. It made sense for long term for me, but I didn't really want to give you running back depth. And then you got Mostert, I think, but that was kind of my thing. I thought I was going to play you possibly at one point. I was like, I would just do not want to make a deal that could take me out in one of those weeks. And like you had a good shot at it. Like, I mean, anything could happen in playoffs. Yeah. And I think that was the week like Swift was up against the Packers defense, and I was worried about that, and it just kind of worked out. I don't know. So that's kind of why I didn't want to do the Gaskin thing. But yeah. But like, and plus I was a little bit bitter when I could have got Galladay for him. The second I was like, man, I would have been something that.
I think that, like, I remember like that deal that I did with Sean there. That was right after I think he had just dealt Amari Cooper, and he was selling, and he had just dealt Amari Cooper to Riley for, I'll say, first, second, and a third roughly. And so then I said, well, Gibson's worth a first, so I'll give you a second and a third for Galladay, which is essentially what he got for Cooper. And so then he hit accept on that. So I think but looking at the deals that you have done, Joel, I think it's interesting that, like, what Dan said, I think is perfectly put. Like, the deals that you have made and have all worked out really well for you. And I think we get how that's happened when you even talk about deals like, well, a second for Rodgers is fair, and you recognize that. But for me, like, when I feel like, oh, a deal's fair, then it's like, okay, I'm doing it and it's done, right? Yeah. But then you take that second look at it and don't just pull the trigger on that, which has obviously worked really, really well for you. So
yeah.
Joel, have you got a trophy to you yet? Right, COVID is
Yeah, it's kind of delayed. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Well, I don't know if we'll change it. I mean, it depends on what happens over Easter. We thought about going up Swan, but
Let me know. Let me know, or else or else I'll ship it out.
Fair enough. Or I think there's possibly my parents coming down this way too. So maybe I'll get them to stop in or something, but we'll see what happens.
I'll wrap it up so they don't see finger bang on the trophy.
I was just gonna say it's so funny.
Actually,
I cannot wait.
Looking forward to that new decor in the living room at the new house there.
Can't wait. It's gonna be on display, I think. Yeah, for sure. But like even when I say like the things that it always takes like just that week. Like even Louis, like I thought Monday night, like I'm losing to him. Like everything seemed to go wrong that week for me and right for him. And then I think he had only to get maybe 20 fantasy points with Big Ben and who was I guess Boyd probably. I think Boyd picked up, and then Boyd gets knocked out with a concussion the first like play of the game, and then Big Ben just has his worst game of the year. So, and then like Dan, yeah, like I'd probably lose to Dan 7-8 times out of 10, and then just that 1 week that it worked out. Irv Smith gets 2 touchdowns and like how many points? Like just I was forced. Like I would never have played him, but then Hunter Henry had COVID, so throwing Irv Smith and worked out.
Watching Louis' team fall apart was, I mean, as much as you definitely deserve to be in the finals, Joel, when I seen that we had a shot to be the partner in that I'd be playing in the finals, I mean, it obviously was a little appealing for me. So watching his team fall apart and seeing you get a spot in the finals just made my stomach drop. So but you deserved it. You definitely deserved it.
Oh, thanks guys. Yeah.
It's funny. I think a good way to kind of close out is like, I mean, same thing when Danny won. Like Danny was like your team was good, Joel, but like when Danny won, it's like make the playoffs and you just put together a couple good weeks, like, and like anything can happen. So we talk about teams like JP and Paul and like whether the opposite side of the coin is like get into the playoffs and like you honestly just don't know what can happen. Like on 1 week, like any team can pull it out. So it was exciting for me to experience the playoffs, even though I got rolled out the first round. But like that was my mindset this year. Is like, hey, make the playoffs and like roll the dice. But
you never know. Yeah.
Glad I lost the champ. So it's
yeah.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I think it's a good time to wrap it up here. It was a great episode. I think, from the sounds of it, looks like there could be some trades coming down the line. It was nice. We had some, breaking news, which was awesome there with some excitement from Brant, Louis, and Adam. But yeah, it was great chatting, guys. Look forward to next episode. And JP, if you've made it this far, look, we'd love to have you on. Love to have you on next time. I know you've been messaging me, so hopefully we can get you on the next one.